It began with a USB and finished with a man who was disoriented. Jim Jones tried to maintain what little dignity he still had, while sitting quietly in the courtroom with his arms folded. However, the entire room changed as Cameron handed the clerk that little disc. The screen sprang to life. The video wasn't only a surprise, it was a surgical procedure. Chrissy is entering a hotel with another man while wearing a sweatshirt and heels. No, Jim, Reggie was the one. Burned into the corner was the timestamp. 9:13 p.m. in Soho, outside the Moran Hotel. The video had audio, perspectives, and more. Nobody was prepared for what Chrissy's voice murmured. Keep him in the dark. Something inside Jim snapped, but he didn't blink or flinch. You sensed it. Mama. Jones stopped. With the contentment of someone who has been waiting for this very moment for years, Cameron reclined back. However, this was not an impromptu betrayal. Chrissy was aware of the cameras. Her speech and body language seemed staged, as though she intended for this to be observed. As though this had been planned. The adultery wasn't the only thing that made things worse. It was the difference. Jim had stated on a webcast a few months prior that Chrissy was his breath, his anchor and everything. However, she was there, speaking to Reggie while holding a glass of wine and softly shadowed by the dark lighting. I can now breathe with you. I'm not feeling stuck. And the serene, liberated expression in her eyes. It was more painful than the actual betrayal. For months, there had been rumors circulating about Reggie. Chrissy dismissed them, claiming that he was only a buddy. However, pals don't toast by candlelight or check into hotels late at night. The murmurs evolved into affirmation. Jim sat up rigidly as the video continued to play. He was bracing as though he already knew. However, observing and knowing are two distinct things. The line that broke the quiet then came. Chrissy is informing someone on the phone. Jim still believes that I'm with my cousins. He's so stupid. The courtroom became silent. Mama Jones yelled as she attempted to stand up. She was kept back by security. Jim passed out, gasping for air, hands to his chest. EMTs arrived quickly. Everything was stopped by the court dot, and that was only the first clip. The wound was only made worse by the subsequent scenario. Chrissy laughed and swirled her wine while leaning against the motel bed frame. Her words, "This is where I feel real. With you, I'm not pretending." She was aware that someone was filming, but she had no idea the video would wind up here. That much was obvious. One of Reggie's cronies, who was notorious for constantly having cameras rolling, owned the room. Regardless of whether Chrissy overestimated Reggie's commitment or underestimated Cameron, the harm was done. Cameron allegedly had an insider. According to certain reports, others said that when Chrissy ghosted him, Reggie turned over the video. In any case, Cameron had evidence. And of something more serious, something illegal, not simply the cheating. Because Chrissy said something that completely altered the perception that this was about heartbreak. I cleaned up that mess with Reggie's aid. I informed them that it was a gift. It wasn't simply idle chatter. That may have been a confession. Chrissy was already being investigated for her dubious charitable activities. It now appeared as though she could have been concealing evidence on camera. The trial was halted by the DIA. Even if everything seemed unreal, it wasn't over yet. Cameron's team had more when play restarted. 3 weeks prior to the hotel footage, there was a voicemail. Chrissy's voice was urgent and scared. "Mona, the season will end if Jim learns. Cameron is unable to view that video. You assured me that it was removed. However, it wasn't. It was performed for everyone, including Jim's mother, here in court." The recording demonstrated not simply dishonesty, but also a conscious effort to hide the truth. In an attempt to minimize it, Chrissy muttered to her attorney, "Just say I was drunk." Incredulous, the courtroom shook its head. The video was really clear. She spoke steadily. "That's not a valid reason." It didn't end there though. Then came a behind-the-scenes video from Love and Hip Hop New York that was shot months earlier. Yandy and Chrissy are conversing during a break. Neither was aware that they were being filmed. Chrissy let out a sigh. "All I'm doing is this for Mona, another season. After that, I'll stop acting the part." Yi inquired, "What are you pretending?" Chrissy put it simply, "I still hang out at the gym. We've passed. I simply haven't spoken it aloud." Once adoring fans immediately turned against her. The setup queen became popular. The old clips came back. People now thought that the tweets they had missed were warnings. "She ruined my son," yelled Mama Jones as she raced down the corridor outside the court. What a snake that lady is. She was stopped by security, but it was too late. Already, the meltdown had gone viral. Memes, TikToks, and modifications are all over the place. After that, Cameron's attorney dropped yet another surprise. Printed emails. Chrissy is requesting that someone remove VA Idio from a private server. "I need that room wiped by Monday," she wrote. "Jim won't get better if it spills. The program won't either." The gun was smoking, not only infidelity, not merely telling lies. It was manipulation, control over the media, a complete cover-up. At last, Jim said something. Just one query: did any of it happen? Chrissy remained silent, simply glanced down. Her quiet reverberated. The court even halted because VH1's legal team had joined the argument, not because of the drama. Some of the footage, they said, could violate confidentiality agreements. However, the judge was unconcerned with network politics. "Did you try to influence this case with media tactics?" he asked Chrissy directly. Her voice broke. "I had no intention of it getting this far. I felt frightened." "What are you afraid of? Jim is gone? Losing control and the lie?" Then the last blow was delivered. From Reggie's burner phone, a text. He sent a pal a letter. "She also played me. Said she would leave him. I'm the bad guy now. The clips are with Cameron. I ought to have shared each one. Please don't," she pleaded. Consequently, there were additional videos, proof, and betrayals. Jim left by himself in the end. No Mona, no Chrissy, no cameras protecting him. Just a guy left in the wake of treachery. Outside, reporters questioned Cameron. "Do you think Jim deserved this?" Cameron answered, "No, but sometimes the truth doesn't care who it hurts," while glaring directly into the camera. The internet went crazy. Memes started to appear. Suddenly, it seemed prophetic to edit Jim's face with comments like, "You love the camera more than my son. You fold like hotel sheets," sad music overlays, and threads interpreting Chrissy's previous interviews. Then followed the knock-on consequences. Another motion was filed by Cameron's legal team. It turns out that Reggie had post-production experience. He was able to access editing servers. It was more than simply drama. It may have been fraud. The sponsors withdrew. Production stopped. Chrissy was unfollowed by Mona Scott. VH1 attempted to hide the video, but it was too late. For emotional and monetary harm, Jim's attorney sued Chrissy for $2.3 million. Marcus, her ex, publicly criticized her, claiming that she had exploited Jim to gain influence. Her admirers dubbed her the architect. A teaser was revealed by Cameron. The courtroom was visible to you. View the complete story now. Within hours, it had 5 million views. Chrissy said nothing. Mama Jones became enraged. Jim, on the other hand, chose tranquility over attention and vanished from view. The once televised love tale ended not with a split, but rather with a USB. A courtroom and the unquestionable breakdown of all that was meant to be true.